What's up guys, my name is Liam and today we're going to be taking a look at a highly recommended budget keyboard, the Ace 60 Pro. Now this does come available in some different variations as far as the switches goes. You can get it as low as just right above $40. The version I have right in front of me is the most expensive version. It comes with the TTC Uranus standard switches, around $69. So in this video I'm going to be telling you how my experience has been with it, how does it stack up against competition even with the performance, and hopefully I'll be able to help you decide whether or not this could possibly be the perfect keyboard for you. So let's check it out. And before we get started today, I did want to let you know that this was sent out to me. However, everything you're going to be hearing in this video is going to be my own words and my own opinions. Included inside of the box, it does come with some documentation, a switch and keycap puller, 2 additional switches, and then a USB-C to USB Type-A cable. The one thing I really do appreciate about this keyboard is they kept the design just really simple and straightforward, but just kind of when you pick this up out of the box, it does have some pretty decent weight to it. I've definitely feel like I felt keyboards in the past that had a little bit more of a cheaper feeling. So coming in at the price point that this does come at, it doesn't really feel too bad. And the weight on my scale coming in at about 676.6 grams. But aside from that, just a standard 60% layout. If you were to look over here at the top, it does have the USB-C connectivity over here at the top left-hand side. And then looking at this over on the rear, it does have 4 rubberized feet up here in each one of the corners. These feet have been actually working out really well for me. They're nice and grippy. And even though this is a little bit of a lighter feeling of a keyboard as I've had it sitting on my desk, with these feet, I haven't noticed too many issues with it moving around on me while I've been using it during my gameplay. Here's a look of the case from the side profile and then even up here in the front. So yeah, really basic, simple, and straightforward design. The front up here doesn't feel like it sits up too high or anything like that. And just this case in general, as you can see, it's really small and compact. So the walls on it aren't too thick or anything like that. The edges on here, they're a little bit more on the pointier end, but nothing that seemed to bother me too much as I was using it or anything like that. Everything about the usability, the way it sits, and the comfort of it has felt really solid to me. Here's a look of the shine through PBT keycaps that this does come included with, and they do feel good. Though there are a bunch of different switch options that are available for this keyboard, I do apologize. I have not had the opportunity to test out all of the other different variants. The only ones that I have been able to test out is just the ones that did come with this version of the keyboard that I got, which is the standard TTC Uranus switches. As I open them up to inspect them and take a look, it does appear that they do come pre-lubed. And I do want to say that these switches, I'm really shocked for how cheap this keyboard is, how really good that these switches feel. I don't notice any major areas of concern when it comes to the build quality of them. And as I've been playing on them and testing them out, just everything about even the stem wobble on them, there's a very minimal amount of stem wobble, nothing that is too out of the ordinary or concerning, even as I was going back and forth and comparing them to the stem wobble on the Jade Pros, for example. There honestly isn't too much of a huge noticeable difference between them. Hold on, I got one of the switches to the right there, so as you can see, there's that, and next to the Jade Pro. So honestly, I don't really have anything to really critique about these switches. Even the way that they press and release, I've been pushing on all the corners, trying to see if I notice any type of rubbing or anything that feels abnormal on this the whole time I've been using it. And they have felt responsive and stable. And as I was just demonstrating, you can see that the Jade Pro switch does fit in here, and I was getting it to work. I didn't notice any issues with it. It seemed to be working normally. Now, I wouldn't recommend probably putting these switches in this board at this time, because when I get into the software here in just a little bit, there isn't an option when you actually configure the keyboard or calibrate it, excuse me, that there is an option for the magnetic Jade Pros. It does come with these silicone noise dampening little spacers right here that go underneath the spacebar itself. And even upon analyzing these stabilizers, coming in at the price that this does come in at, there's some lube in there, so these do come pre-lubed, and these stabilizers have not been too rattly for me or anything like that, as I will demonstrate here very shortly with the sound test. But the build on this is just really simple and straightforward. This is an aluminum plate that the switches go inside of over here on the top, and then in between the switch plate and the PCB itself, they do have a silicone gasket. And then right underneath that, here's a close-up shot of what the PCB itself looks like. And then underneath the PCB itself, they do have a pretty heavy duty and thick piece of silicone. It's pretty standard. It's thicker up here at the top. And then once you get down here over on the bottom, it kind of goes thicker to thinner from top to bottom. And then on the bottom, you just have this plastic case here. And this case, it does feel, you know, it's a little bendy and stuff like that. When you have everything set in here, nothing that you really notice. It seems to be fine. But as you can clearly see, this whole keyboard is tray mounted and screws into the bottom of the plastic tray itself. You can access all the functions of this keyboard through their web-based driver. I've noticed that every time I do come in here, I believe that this is Chinese. If you want to change the language, you just come down here to the bottom left-hand side, and this is where you can select English. Over here on the first option, it was where they have the lighting settings. Really straightforward. You can see the different presets they have here. Also allows you to adjust the speed setting and the brightness of the effects. For the trigger settings, you can either adjust all of the keys by the global settings, or you can come in here and individually adjust each key if you wish to set them up separately. But as you can see over here on the top left hand side is where it does allow you to make sure that you do have the correct switches selected that you do have installed inside of this keyboard. I always recommend calibrating your keyboard the second that you get out of the box, and every single time that you update the firmware on your keyboard, I also recommend that you calibrate it as well. Definitely has helped me out a lot with all the keyboards that I've used for the most part that do give you this function and makes it run a lot more stable. But when it comes to these Uranus switches out of the box, the minimum travel or actuation that these do have is a 0.1 millimeter. This does allow you to make adjustments in the 0.01 millimeters all the way down to a bottom out of 3.4 for these switches themselves. And then over here is where you do have the rapid trigger functions. You can enable continuous rapid trigger or do the press and the release separately if you wish to do so. These also go as low as 0.01 millimeters for the sensitivity and can make adjustments as low as 0.01 millimeters all the way up to 3.4 millimeters. And as you can see there, if I have this disabled, it will slide them both together. But if I were to enable that, I can individually move each one of those. And then aside from that, you also do have a dead zone down here where you can adjust the dead zone in case you are having any accidental key presses or releases with the top dead zone or bottom dead zone. This is something that I haven't necessarily so much had an issue with after I started the calibration. Every once in a while, it would just randomly activate a key. So you could just kind of come in here and fine tune these settings just based on however your keyboard is performing. For the bottom dead zone, I haven't had any issues personally myself with like as I'm running or anything like that where I just randomly stop running. So everything as far as that goes has been actually working pretty decent and solid for me. Next up, you do have the key remapping tab. You can remap your keys. And then this is where it also gets really impressive for me. They have all these different functions for as low price as this keyboard is. You got the Rappy Snappy, the SOCD, DKS, their hold and tap feature, toggle switch. And I have been messing around with the SOCD on the A&D and it seemed to be performing perfectly for me. I haven't noticed any issues or any instability issues. Next up over here on the performance, you can adjust which polling rate you wish to use with this keyboard. And then I've been using this berserk mode. As I showed you in these settings, it was allowing me to make adjustments as 0.01 millimeters. I do believe that if you have this disabled, it will only allow you to go as low as 0.02 millimeters. The stability mode right here, you can play around with it. I don't know why, but I enabled it just to test it out, and one of my keys, when I pressed it, it wouldn't release. That happened to me like in a game, like just twice. Over here on the final page is where you can't update to the latest firmware. Really simple to do. I was able to update this once I got out of the box. Just came in here, pressed this, automatically updated for me. I was all set. I just came back over and refigured the keys, and that pretty much wraps things up on the web-based driver. When it comes to the performance, I did test this out on my solenoid rig, and I do want to put out a really quick disclaimer, as any type of latency test with any mechanical moving parts in it, and even just different varying factors like end-to-end system latency, can ultimately impact the end result of this test. The performance on this keyboard is also another factor that has been very impressive. When it comes to testing it against the Wooting 60HE, I did run this test on both of them for the press and the release 10 times. And as for the press performance goes on both of these in the real world results, they were kind of going back and forth, trading blows, not really that much of a difference from one another. However, the Ace 60 Pro did come ahead on the release of this test, winning in the results 8 out of the 10 times. So even the performance of this board is getting pretty close to my results that I was getting out of the Wooting 80HE. All right, guys, so that about wraps things up on the Ace 60 Pro. These TTC Uranus standard switches on here actually have been very impressive to me. Just everything about the stability, the feeling of them in game, the responsiveness, the actuation on them has felt really smooth. So the fact that this even comes with a web-based driver and it has all the functionality that it does, you're able to tune so many different things on it, like the polling rate. It gives you several different switch options. I mean, I could just go on and on about how feature-packed this keyboard truly is for the price point that it comes in at. So overall, it is very impressive. Now, me myself, I do still prefer something that is a little bit more premium feeling, and I also do prefer a larger form factor of a keyboard myself. So even though this isn't going to be my first choice at the end of the day, I must say that the fact that this comes in at the price point that it comes in at, I mean, if you pick this up in an L7 for right around the price point of $100, that truly is, in my opinion, a really killer combo here. And I mean, just everything about this keyboard for me, the fact that it has shine through keycaps, something that I generally prefer myself anyways. Everything about it has been really impressive for the price point that it's coming in at. The fact that you could pick this up so cheap, I would definitely recommend for the way that it feels, sounds, performs, and all the features that it comes with, that it is worth checking out. All right, guys, so if you have any questions or feel like I left anything out, please let me know down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.